I always thought my life was pretty simple: steady job, steady marriage, steady routine. Too steady, maybe. My wife, Lena, used to tease me about being too predictable, but lately the jokes had turned into little digs, comments about how I didn't understand ambition or how some people actually want more out of life. I brushed it off as stress. What really started bothering me, though, was the shift at work. My boss, let's call him Carlson, had suddenly taken a strange interest in me. Not the good kind. The kind where he'd accidentally CC me on emails implying I'd messed up on tasks I hadn't even been assigned, or he'd pull me into his office to ask loaded questions like, "Is everything okay at home? You seem distracted." I didn't think much of it until Lena's late nights started lining up perfectly with the nights Carlson would keep me behind for urgent issues. Issues that never actually existed. At first I thought it was just crappy management. Then I noticed she was always perfectly dressed on the nights I came home late, like she'd been somewhere nice, not just out with the girls. And her phone? Suddenly glued to her hand like it held state secrets. I had this crawling feeling in my gut that something was seriously off, but even then, I didn't imagine the mess I was about to step into, because the truth wasn't just betrayal. It was a setup. A trap. One Carlson had been laying quietly for years. And I was about to walk right into it. The turning point came on a Thursday night, one of those urgent issue nights when Carlson made me stay 2 extra hours to audit performance logs. Logs that, by the way, didn't even exist in the system when I checked later. When I finally got home, the apartment was dark except for the bedroom light leaking under the door. Lena always turned it off before bed. Always. I pushed the door open quietly, half expecting her to be asleep. Instead, she was sitting cross-legged on the bed, dressed up like she'd just come back from a date she didn't want me to know about. Makeup still perfect. Hair too perfect. And she was on a video call, except the second she saw me, she panicked so fast she almost threw her phone across the room. She hung up instantly. "What was that?" I asked. She didn't even try to come up with a good lie. "Oh, just a coworker. We were discussing a project." You wouldn't get it. A coworker. At 11:47 p.m. Video calling. With lipstick that wasn't there this morning. It was the first time I truly felt that sickness in my stomach, the kind where your whole body realizes the truth before your brain catches up. But the real kicker wasn't the call. It was the name that flashed for half a second before she slammed her screen dark. Carlson, work. My boss. Why the hell was she video calling my boss? I didn't react right away. Honestly, I think my brain froze. I just kept replaying that name in my head, Carlson, work, while Lena launched into her usual performance. "You're really going to interrogate me after waltzing in this late," she snapped. "Maybe if you were actually home once in a while, we wouldn't need to rely on other people for support." Other people. Support. She said it like she was the victim here. I told her I'd seen Carlson's name. She didn't even blink. "Oh, that. He's been helping me with some career stuff. You know, things you don't understand. And he said you've been struggling at work, so I was trying to get insight." Stop being paranoid. She talked like she was reading from a rehearsed script, every line perfectly crafted to make me feel small, unstable, wrong. But here's the thing, Carlson had been acting weird for weeks. Trying to corner me in conversations. Dig into my personal life. Asking questions that didn't make sense unless he already knew something. And now my wife was conveniently connected to him behind my back? That wasn't just cheating. It was coordination. I didn't accuse her of anything else, not yet. I just walked out, sat in the living room, and tried to piece together why the hell my boss would be involved in this. That's when I noticed something even stranger, a notification on my work email, timestamped an hour earlier. Unusual activity detected in your account. Security review required. I hadn't touched my work laptop all day. And it hit me, cold and sharp. This wasn't just about my marriage. Someone was trying to put me exactly where they wanted me, cornered, disoriented, easy to blame. The next morning I got up before Lena, pretending everything was fine. I grabbed my work laptop, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my email. There it was. A flagged file sitting in my sent folder. Quarterly_review_adjustments. Docs. Sent at 9:13 p.m. Right around the time Carlson had me locked in his office with system issues. I opened the file. My stomach dropped. It was a report full of manipulated numbers, fake performance drops for 3 employees. All people Carlson had hinted were too idealistic or hard to manage. And the edits were done under my login. I hadn't written a word of it. Right then everything snapped into focus. Carlson was framing me. He wanted me to take the blame for a falsified report. A report he'd probably been crafting long before I ever saw it. But why drag my wife into this? I called one of the employees listed in the report, my friend Mark. Quiet guy, honest to a fault. He picked up on the second ring, voice tight. Man. I'm sorry you got mixed into this. What are you talking about? They told us you submitted a complaint. That you said we were falsifying our own numbers. Carlson even showed us the report. They'd already seen it. He'd already put my name on the firing line. And Lena? She had been talking to him at midnight while all this was happening. I looked toward the bedroom as she slept, perfectly peaceful, like she wasn't involved in detonating my life. Suddenly, her late nights, her secrecy, her bitchy condescension. It wasn't just cheating. It was cooperation. Carlson had set me up, and she was helping him pull the strings. But the thing about traps? Sometimes the hunter forgets where he placed them. And sooner than any of them expected. Carlson was going to get caught in his own. I waited until Lena woke up. She walked into the kitchen like nothing was wrong, scrolling her phone, humming. The moment she saw the laptop open, though, she froze. Why are you working this early? She asked, too quickly. I turned the screen toward her. The fake report glowed on the display. Did you know about this? She didn't even try to read it. She just crossed her arms and said, "Why are you accusing me again? You seriously need help." Deflection. Classic Lena. This file was sent from my account last night, I said. At the exact time I was locked in Carlson's office with made-up tasks. And you just happened to be video calling him. Her jaw tightened. There was a tiny flicker in her eyes, fear? Guilt? Something. But she buried it under attitude. Maybe you sent it and forgot. You've been overwhelmed lately. Misclicks happen. Or maybe Carlson was helping you fix something, and you're twisting it because you're insecure. She lied like she breathed, smooth, casual, confident. But the more she talked, the clearer it became. She wasn't surprised by the file. She was annoyed I'd found it. I pushed my luck. Are you cheating on me with him? That got a reaction. She scoffed dramatically. Oh my God, grow up. Not everything is about you. He actually appreciates someone with ambition. Ambition. Her favorite word lately. She turned to walk away, but I wasn't done. What did he promise you? I asked. A promotion? A job? A chance to escape your boring marriage? She stopped mid-step. And that silence told me everything. She didn't deny it. She didn't defend me. She didn't even look guilty. She looked irritated that I'd caught up to what was happening. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, clipped, venomous. You honestly think you're the victim here? Carlson is cleaning up a mess you created. If you get fired because you can't handle your own responsibilities, that's on you. That was it. She had chosen her side. And it wasn't mine. But here's the thing. If Carlson wanted to frame me, he should have been smarter. He should have done it cleanly. Quietly. Instead, he dragged my wife into it. He'd gotten cocky. Sloppy. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something other than fear. I felt a plan forming. I spent most of the day at work with my stomach twisted into knots, waiting for the next blow. Carlson kept walking past my desk, giving me that fake concerned mentor look. The dude was practically glowing, like he already had the ending written and printed. But then something strange happened. While I was grabbing coffee in the break room, the cleaning lady, an older woman named Alina, approached me quietly. I'd always been kind to her, and she'd always treated me like a favorite nephew. She looked around to make sure no one else was nearby. "You need to be careful," she whispered. "He's doing it again." I froze. "Doing what again?" She lowered her voice even more. "Carlson. Whenever he wants someone gone, he makes these stories. These files. Always looks like the employee did something wrong." My heart started pounding. "How do you know this?" I asked. Her face tightened, remembering something she clearly didn't want to relive. "Because I saw him last night," she said. "He was here very late. He printed something. Many pages. And when it finished, he panicked because I walked in. He told me he was revising reports. But the papers had your name on top." I felt the room tilt. "He's done this before," she added. "3 times that I remember. Good people. Honest people. They leave, and no one checks anything. So it wasn't about me specifically. Carlson had a pattern. A system. But now he'd gotten reckless enough for someone to notice." I asked her if she would be willing to say something officially. She shook her head. "He would fire me. Or worse. I have a daughter." I nodded. I couldn't blame her. But then she handed me something I didn't expect, a folded piece of paper. "I wasn't supposed to take it," she whispered. "But I did. I had a feeling you'd need it." I unfolded it with trembling hands. It was a printed page from the fake report, with Carlson's name still listed as the document's author in the footer metadata. She covered her mouth with her hand. He printed it before he changed that part. It was the first real crack in his plan. The first piece of leverage. And suddenly, everything shifted. His trap wasn't airtight. He'd left his fingerprints all over it. When I got home that evening, Lena was already dressed like she was going somewhere, heels, hair done, perfume thick enough to choke a horse. She didn't even pretend she'd been waiting for me. "Going out?" I asked. She snapped her compact mirror shut. "I told you yesterday, I'm meeting coworkers for late drinks." You never listen. Translation: I'm doing something you won't like, and I dare you to try stopping me. Normally, I'd just let it slide to avoid the fight. But today I had the tiniest advantage tucked in my coat pocket, evidence Carlson never meant anyone to have. So I played stupid. "Oh, right. Where exactly?" She gave me a look like I'd asked what 2 plus 2 was. "Same place as always. Zara's on 5th. Funny. Because I knew for a fact Zara's had closed for renovations last week. "I'll drive you," I said casually. And for the first time in days, she panicked. "No. No, that's fine. Sarah's picking me up." She didn't have a coworker named Sarah. "Did you eat?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. "Why are you being so weird today?" I shrugged. "Just checking." It was such a simple exchange. But watching her scramble for lies, watching her get tangled in her own words, I realized something important. She wasn't working with Carlson. Not really. She was being used just as much as I was, told half-truths, fed carefully chosen lies, manipulated into resenting me so she wouldn't question him. That didn't make her innocent. Not even close. She chose to believe him over me. She chose secrecy and ego over honesty. She chose to act like I was beneath her. But it did mean one thing. She didn't actually know the whole plan. And if she didn't know, Then she wasn't prepared for what was coming next. Because tonight, something was about to happen, something Carlson hadn't planned for. And this time? He wouldn't see the trap until he stepped in it. Lena left the apartment 30 minutes later, lying the entire way out the door, and I waited until I heard her heels disappear down the stairs before opening my laptop again. If Carlson was setting me up, then my work credentials had to be compromised somehow. I logged into my inbox. That's when I saw it. A new outgoing email I definitely hadn't sent. Timestamped 5:42 p.m. While I was still commuting home. Subject line, urgent, internal violations report. Sent to HR. With my name on it. My pulse started pounding as I clicked it. Inside was a summary accusing me of manipulating performance records, exactly what Carlson had been doing. He wasn't just framing me. He was accelerating the process. He was preparing the final nail. But then I noticed something off. The writing style wasn't mine, obviously, but it also wasn't Carlson's usual wording either. Too formal. Too stiff. Almost legal. As if someone else had drafted it. And at the bottom? A digital signature. Carlson's. Not mine. He must have forgotten to remove it or assumed HR wouldn't check metadata once the accusation was loud enough. But the best part? My inbox showed that the email had been forwarded to my personal address after it was sent. And the header info confirmed it. It wasn't sent from my device at all. The device ID belonged to Carlson's workstation. He'd made a mistake. A big one. And now I had the printed page Alina gave me. A forwarded email showing it came from his machine. Metadata tying the violation report directly to his signature. Any one of those could raise suspicion. All three together? Enough to flip the whole script. I sat back in my chair, heart racing with something I hadn't felt in days. Control. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting. I had leverage. I had proof. And tomorrow? I'd have an opportunity. Because tomorrow was the auditor's quarterly visit, something Carlson always dreaded. And now I understood why. He'd spent years perfecting his little scheme. Framing honest employees. Destroying careers quietly. Making himself look clean. But the person reviewing internal logs tomorrow? Was not his friend. And I suddenly realized. This wasn't just about saving myself anymore. It was a chance to expose him completely. A chance to let him fall into the exact trap he'd built for everyone else. And I was ready. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept replaying the same thought. Why was Carlson so confident this would work? Why risk dragging my wife into it? Why accelerate the plan so fast? And then something clicked, something I should have seen earlier. Carlson didn't pick me randomly. He picked me because I was married. He needed someone whose personal life looked unstable, someone he could paint as distracted, sloppy, overwhelmed. And Lena, with her secrecy, her bitterness, her sudden shift in attitude, was the perfect narrative tool. Whether she knew it or not, she became the context that made his story believable. A cheating wife. A stressed husband. A distracted employee. A convenient mistake. He'd built this trap over years. All he ever needed was a profile that fit, and I fit it perfectly. But then I realized something weird. Why had Lena changed so suddenly? Why the digs? Why the late nights? Why the emotional distance that came out of nowhere? I always blamed her. But what if she'd been manipulated too? Carlson had access to all our emergency contacts. Our HR paperwork. Our references. Our schedules. He knew when I worked late. He knew when she traveled for work. He knew enough to create tension. And then I remembered something chilling Lena said weeks ago, something I brushed off at the time. Carlson said you've been overwhelmed and slipping at work. He's worried about you. He'd been feeding her information long before this. Testing her reactions. Pushing boundaries. Planting doubts. My marriage wasn't just falling apart, it had been tampered with. And suddenly, the midnight call made sense. She wasn't flirting. She wasn't even hiding it well. She was scared. Confused. And Carlson was the one guiding her through the storm he created. That realization burned through me like fire. He hadn't just tried to ruin me at work. He was dismantling my life piece by piece. But what he didn't know was that his little empire was already rotting. The email. The metadata. Alina's testimony. His own signature. And tomorrow's audit? It would be the perfect stage for everything to collapse. For the first time since all this started, I didn't just want to survive. I wanted him to feel the panic he forced on everyone else. Because Carlson hadn't realized it yet, but his trap wasn't swallowing me. It was swallowing him. The next morning at work had a different energy, tense, quiet, the kind of silence where everyone pretends nothing is wrong even though everyone knows something is very wrong. Quarterly audits always made people nervous, but this one had an edge to it. By 9:15 a.m., the auditor arrived. Ms. Rowan. Sharp eyes. Zero small talk. The kind of woman who can smell a lie from a different floor. Carlson acted like her long-lost friend. "Great to see you again," he said with that rehearsed smile. She didn't even shake his hand. "Let's start with internal reports." And I swear, his jaw twitched. He'd been expecting to have everything neatly prepared, his fake report pinned on me, his narrative solid, HR already warming up the guillotine. But the email metadata I found last night? That changed everything. I wasn't going to wait for him to bury me. I wasn't going to let him isolate me first. I wasn't going to play the silent victim he counted on. So when Ms. Rowan asked for any irregularities that need review, I stepped forward. "I have something," I said. The entire room froze, including Carlson, who glanced at me the way you'd look at a ticking bomb. I handed the auditor the printed page Alina had kept. Then the forwarded email showing the report came from Carlson's workstation. Then a screenshot with digital signature metadata. Ms. Rowan scanned the papers silently, expression unreadable. Carlson tried to recover. "This is a misunderstanding, he's clearly fabricating this to avoid accountability." She held up a hand. He shut up instantly. Then she asked only one question. "Did you create this file?" "I did not," I said. "But Carlson did. The metadata trail is untouched, you can verify that." She nodded once. Then she turned to Carlson. "Why was your workstation sending emails under his credentials yesterday?" He froze. Actually froze. The man who always had a polished answer suddenly couldn't swallow. I must have been helping him." "No," I said. "You weren't. I wasn't even in the building at the time." Ms. Rowan typed something into her tablet. "We'll need to check the logs." Carlson tried to laugh like this was all silly. "Come on, Rowan, you know me. I've been running this department for 10 years. She didn't look up. "And in 10 years, I've received 4 anonymous complaints about fabricated reports." Her eyes flicked to me. "This makes 5. That was it." The room shifted. People were no longer looking at me. They were looking at him. He'd triggered his own trap. He'd relied on a pattern that finally caught up with him. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Carlson looked scared. For a man who spent years controlling every narrative in the building, Carlson completely fell apart in under 10 minutes. Ms. Rowan asked him to join her in the conference room for a deeper review. He tried to keep his composure, but the moment the door closed, his voice started leaking through the walls. Not shouting. Not angry. Panicked. "No, that's not, I didn't, you're twisting the system must have, I was helping him." And Rowan's calm, cold replies cut through every lie. "Logs don't lie. The signature predates the alleged edits. That timestamp contradicts your statement. You printed the file before the changes were made. Cracks forming everywhere. People in the office pretended not to listen, but every ear was tuned in. The same employees he'd tried to discipline over the years were watching the golden boss stutter and choke under the simplest questions. And then something unexpected happened. Around 11 a.m., Rowan called me into the conference room too. Carlson looked like someone had unplugged his soul. Sweaty, pale, twitchy, like every version of himself he had carefully constructed was collapsing at once. Rowan motioned for me to sit. "I'd like you to hear this directly." Carlson's eyes darted to me. "This is personal. He has an unstable home situation, his wife is known to be." "Stop," Rowan snapped. "Your comments about his personal life are not only irrelevant, they're unprofessional and unethical." His entire strategy, using my marriage to discredit me, backfired in real time. Rowan clicked a button on her tablet. "We reviewed your activity logs." Carlson swallowed hard. "The manipulated performance report was created entirely on your computer, under your login, before the supposed corrections." He tried one last pathetic defense. I was demonstrating something for him." "No," Rowan said, leaning back. "The last 5 employees who left under suspicious circumstances? Their reports were created the same way. Same device ID. Same metadata pattern." He blinked like he couldn't process it. "You've been doing this for years," Rowan finished. And then, the moment that changed everything. Carlson broke. He stood up abruptly, knocking over a stack of folders. "This is a setup," he hissed. "You're framing me." "He's framing me." He pointed at me, wild-eyed. "You think he's innocent? You think he doesn't have an agenda? His wife worked with me, she promised." He stopped. Too late. He realized what he'd almost admitted. Rowan's eyebrows lifted slightly. "His wife, what?" Carlson's face drained of all color. I stared at him, shock punching me in the ribs. He'd just exposed himself without even meaning to. He knew way too much about my wife. More than any boss should. More than Lena ever told me. Rowan stood, straightening her blazer. "I think we've heard enough for today." But I hadn't. Because Carlson's half-sentence, his fear, his panic, his slip, confirmed something I hadn't been ready to face. Lena wasn't just manipulated. She was involved deeper than I thought. I left the conference room shaking, not from fear this time, but from the realization that Lena wasn't just a pawn in Carlson's plan. She was part of the machinery. Not just video calls. Not just late-night work drinks. Not just vague insults about my ambition. She had promised something to him. His words. Not mine. What the hell did that mean? I needed answers, so I texted her. "We need to talk. Now." She didn't reply. Fine. I had another angle. I went to the parking lot for air and to think, but I barely made it 2 steps outside before someone called my name. It was Mark, the co-worker Carlson tried to pin the performance manipulation on. He looked uneasy. "Can we talk?" I nodded, bracing myself. He lowered his voice. "I didn't tell you everything yesterday. I thought you'd think I was crazy. Just say it." He exhaled. "Your wife came to the office 2 weeks ago. Late. Like, midnight late." My heart stopped. "What?" He nodded. "I was finishing the server migration. She walked straight into Carlson's office. Didn't even ask who else was here." I felt a cold sweep through my chest. "Did they argue?" He shook his head. "No. It wasn't arguing. It was heated. Low voices. Close." She was smiling. He had his hand on her shoulder at one point. My stomach turned. And then I heard Carlson say, Mark hesitated before repeating it. Once he's out, you're next in line. Just keep playing your part. I felt physically sick. She left around 12:40, Mark added. Carlson came out 5 minutes later looking happier than I've ever seen him. Everything clicked together in a way I didn't want to believe. Lena wasn't being misled. She wasn't confused. She wasn't pressured or manipulated by him. She was cooperating. Willingly. Not because she loved him. Not because she was naive. Because she wanted something. A job. A position. A lifestyle. Something she thought I could never give her. She helped him frame me. For her own benefit. And Carlson, the master trap setter, had just accidentally admitted their arrangement in front of an auditor. But here's the twist neither of them expected. Their alliance? Their little secret? It wasn't just unethical. It was grounds for termination. For legal investigation. For everything Carlson feared most. And he'd spilled it in a moment of panic. Now I had the truth. And more importantly, I had power neither of them knew I held. By the time I walked back into the building, something had changed. People weren't whispering about me anymore, they were whispering about Carlson. The panic from the conference room had spread like wildfire. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I went straight to HR. I didn't ask permission, didn't schedule a meeting, I walked in and placed 3 things on the table. The printed page Alina had given me. The email metadata showing Carlson's device sent the violation report. My written statement, including the exact quote Mark overheard. HR stared at the documents like they were radioactive. I'm reporting a coordinated attempt to falsify documents, I said. And I'm also reporting an inappropriate personal relationship between my supervisor and my spouse, which directly influenced a fabricated complaint against me. They didn't even blink. HR had been waiting years for someone to bring real evidence against Carlson. They weren't protecting him, he had just never slipped before. And today? He hadn't slipped. He had fallen off a cliff. They asked me to wait outside while they escalated everything to corporate compliance. As I stepped into the hallway, I saw Carlson across the office, pacing, sweating, grabbing at his collar like it was strangling him. 2 managers stood a few feet away, watching him like he was about to detonate. When he finally noticed me, his expression twisted. You think you've won, he hissed quietly as he stalked toward me. You think this changes anything? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. She promised she'd back me. She said she'd say you were unstable. She said you wouldn't fight this. His face was pure disbelief, like the universe had betrayed him. And now you're running to HR like some wounded child? You don't understand how this works. But for once, I could look him dead in the eye without fear. I understand perfectly, I said. You've used this setup for years. You just chose the wrong target this time. His jaw twitched. You think you're safe because you found one document? No, I said. I'm safe because you panicked. Those words hit him harder than anything else. Before he could respond, 2 HR directors approached him. Carlson, we need you to come with us. His eyes widened. Wait, hold on. But they escorted him away. And the moment the door shut behind him, the entire office exhaled in a single, collective breath. People whispered. People stared. People smiled actual relief. Because they'd all known something was wrong for years. He just finally got caught. And while the office buzzed with shock and curiosity, my phone buzzed too. A text from Lena. Finally. But not an apology. Not an explanation. Just 2 cold words. We need to talk. She had no idea that her partner in crime had just detonated his entire career trying to defend himself. And I couldn't wait to see how she reacted when she realized the trap they built had only closed on one of them so far. So I thought things had finally settled. The divorce was rolling, Jenna and her affair partner were imploding, and karma was basically doing acrobatics in front of everyone. I was ready to finally breathe. Then I got the message. Not from Jenna. Not from her affair partner. From his wife. Yeah. Turns out the guy Jenna blew up our marriage for? He was also married. And his wife found everything, my emails to Jenna, the confrontation, even the video I sent my lawyer. She somehow dug up my number and reached out. Her message started with, "You don't know me, but I think your wife and my husband deserve each other." She sent screenshots. Full timelines. Dates. Receipts. Travel logs. Stuff I didn't even know existed. Then she told me something that honestly made me sit down. Jenna and her husband had been planning to move in together before she even asked me for a break. She had already contacted a realtor. She had already scouted neighborhoods. She had even told her affair to transition smoothly. I didn't even get angry this time, I just laughed. Out loud. Because at this point karma wasn't just catching up to her, it was dragging her by the hair. And the final blow? His wife told me she already filed for divorce. And named Jenna in the paperwork as a contributing party. Apparently in their state, that matters. So now Jenna wasn't just dealing with our divorce, she was about to get subpoenaed into theirs. And the best part? Her affair partner moved out and blocked both women to focus on himself. Karma, fatality. A week after talking with the affair partner's wife, everything went nuclear for Jenna. And I didn't have to lift a single finger. 1. The subpoena arrived. At her job. Not at home. Not through a lawyer. Straight to her workplace, handed to her in front of 3 co-workers and her supervisor. She tried to play it off like a misunderstanding, but word spread fast. And since the subpoena mentioned marital misconduct, well, people filled in the blanks real quick. Suddenly the queen of I'm the victim wasn't getting sympathy. She was getting side-eyed into oblivion. 2. Her affair partner ghosted her completely. Blocked on everything. Phone? Blocked. Email? Blocked. Even Venmo. Who blocks on Venmo? She tried messaging him from her new number, he replied once. My wife showed me everything. Don't contact me again. That's it. The man she blew up our marriage for bailed like she was radioactive. 3. Her lawyer told her she wasn't getting a cent from me. When she tried to claim she sacrificed her career for our marriage, my lawyer slid a folder across the table. Screenshots. Bank statements. Videos. Messages. The timeline from the affair partner's wife. Her lawyer just stared at her and said, "We're not going to win this." A more beautiful sentence has never been spoken. For the karma cherry on top? She tried to crawl back. Yep. The same person who screamed at me that we were done and I didn't make her feel alive suddenly texted. I've been reflecting, maybe we acted too quickly. I didn't respond. Not a word. She sent paragraph after paragraph. Apologies, excuses, emotional manipulation, classic Jenna greatest hits. Eventually her last message came. You'll regret this. Funny, because I haven't regretted anything in months. 5, and me? I moved into a new apartment. Got back into the gym. Started sleeping like a human again. I even started talking to someone, not rushing, just enjoying life without lies. For the first time in years, everything feels quiet. In a good way. A peaceful way. What I learned. Karma doesn't need help. People hand themselves their own punishment, one selfish choice at a time. And all you have to do is step out of the blast radius.